Welcome. In this lecture, I want to introduce what a function is, and then the next lecture, I'll give you a little bit of language to talk about functions. This is all just kind of language, really looking at examples and getting used to how functions work is the best way to get used to how functions work. But sometimes we need some language to talk about it, so it's good just to kind of learn the lingo. So here we go. So suppose that we have two sets. So suppose that we have these sets. So I have a set S and I have a set T. So suppose that these are sets. Okay, then what do we mean by a function? So then a function, and we're going to write it like this. So this function f, it's going to go from S to T. It's just a rule assigning to each, so it is a rule assigning, okay, so for each element of here, so for each S in there, so to each S in S, so this is an input, so for each input, a single element, so for each in here, it's going to assign a single element, so a single element that's going to be written like this. That's going to be an element of T. Okay, so this is the output. If you haven't seen this before, right, this means that I'm in that set. So this would be like in the set, or an element of. So f of s is in the set T. Okay? So we end up taking, you have your domain. So here's, and I'll give you kind of this language in the next lecture more extensively. But you start over here, and what you're going to have is that you're going to run via this function f over to this set over here. So often we're just going to be going from the real numbers to the real numbers, but sometimes not. Sometimes you're going to go from R2, which is something we'll talk about down the line, R2 to R, or R3 to R, or something like this, okay? And then, so what's going to happen is that, so in that picture there, I had this element S, and what happens to that element S is that this map F, in the way that we kind of notationally write it, is with a little vertical line there, and then we kind of run over like this, so an arrow with a vertical line there, and what it goes to is going to be an element of here, right, and that's going to be this element f of s. So it's an element in here, but it's actually f of s. Okay, so what is a function? You need to say what your set of inputs and your set of outputs is, and then it's going to be a way that for each input, I'm going to give you a single output that's inside of here, okay? And then in the next lecture, we'll talk about a little bit of lingo. Okay, so I hope that made a little sense, and I will see you in that next lecture.